The Celtic year was divided into two halves, the light half and the dark half. The light half began at the beginning of May, which marked the start of summer. The dark half began at Samhain, or Calan Gaeaf in the Welsh tradition, which marked the start of winter. The word Samhain is thought to be derived from the term summer's end. Samhain is a time that lies between times, and is a time that is not a time. It is the end of summer, and marks the time just before we enter the dark half of the year, often referred to as the Celtic New Year. It is a liminal time, and begins at dusk on the 31st of October on the calendrical year. All Celtic holidays begin at dusk, the day before the calendrical date. For example, holy days run from sunset to sunset. Some Druids follow a more agricultural or seasonal calendar and celebrate Samhain when the first frosts appear. Samhain is known popularly today as Halloween. This stems from the Christian Hallowmass. What is interesting to note is that the Feast of All Saints, which follows the day after Hallowmass, used to take place in May. It was moved in 834 to the 1st of November, presumably to compete with the more pagan traditions in an attempt to move the common folk away from such beliefs and practices. Samhain is a time to remember the dead and to welcome them. The dead are never far from us, and the Celtic worldview comprised a sort of ancestor veneration found the world over in pagan traditions. Deceased relatives could come and visit the home, and doors were left unlocked and open so that they could enter. Some use the tradition of a dumb supper, where food and places are laid out for the dead alongside the family's fare, and the meal is eaten in silence. These plates were then taken outside as offerings to the spirits and the fair folk. Hollowing out turnips or sugar beets, and later pumpkins, which were much easier to carve, and placing a candle inside could provide a lantern by which the dead could find their way. Pumpkins are very much a modern invention. Candles may have been left in windows as well to help guide the way. Samhain, when we arrive at summer's end, is a liminal time. The veils between this world and the other world are thin, and so we see the custom of dressing up or guising to protect the living from any unhappy dead. It could also be seen as an acknowledgement of the dead returning and a sort of celebration of the fact. Samhain was celebrated by the Druids in Ireland high on the hilltops with fire from an ancient ritual on Lughnasadh on the Hill of Ward in Meath, the ancient central kingdom. The Feast of Tara took place 3 days before and 3 days after Samhain. At Glastonbury in Somerset, England, the wild hunt is said to ride out of the hill of Glastonbury Tor, with Gwyn ap Neath, the Lord of Annwn, at its head. He collects the souls of those who have died over the past year, and acts in the role of psychopomp, leading the souls to their rightful place in the other world or afterlife. The ancient Celts moved their cattle to winter quarters at this time, and those cattle that they could not feed over winter were slaughtered and made part of great feasts. Rents, debts, and accounts were settled on this day, and hired workers were paid their wages. This time represented a reckoning, an end to things, and a settling of accounts. Samhain is also sometimes known as the third harvest in modern paganism. Where I live in Suffolk, the last of the apples are gathered, the hedgerows have been foraged, and the turnips, carrots, and onions that grow in the sandy soil have been collected. The winter crops are planted between the autumn equinox and Samhain, and many of the fields now lie sleeping through the long winter months. Take a moment to look upon what you have achieved and what has occurred this past year. Take stock so that you can plan over the winter months for the year to come. Samhain is a time of reckoning as well as a time of endings, to stop and reflect on the past year and prepare for the year to come. Blessings of Samhain to you all.